What is up, YouTube? I'm Gardevoir74 here, bringing you my Week 1 game of the PCP. This week we take on Diet Tight, coach of the New Britain Rockruff. Since this is Week 1, we are both 0-0, so we hope to get our first win today and get our first ever win in Draft League in Generation 8. This is my first battle going up on my YouTube that is a part of Draft in Generation 8. This is technically my second battle because I am in the APM Galar tournament. I'm not going to be uploading that, but I did have my first battle there before I battled Die, and I did not have a fun time. I lost in that battle. But in this battle, we're going to hope to actually win and win in our regular season of the PCP. This is Shay's League, as I had mentioned in my draft analysis, which you have not checked that out. I will leave it in the description below if I remember. If it's not going to be in the description, it is one of the most recent videos on my channel, so I'm sure you're going to find it. It's not that hard. But what else will be in the description below will be Diet Tight's YouTube channel. I know he uploads draft content. I'm not sure if he's actually uploading this league, but I know he does upload draft, so I highly recommend you go check him out. His link will be in the description as well. Funny enough that I don't know many of the coaches in the PCP, but Die is actually one I do know. I faced him before. I faced him in IBA Season 5, and we were able to beat him there. I think that video actually is on YouTube because I did have to stop uploading that league because the recorders in that league were just lacking. But I think that one did end up making it up on YouTube. If it's there, if I remember, I'll put it in the description below, but knowing me, I'll probably forget. But every match is different. However, looking at the matchup, I actually really do think we have a solid matchup in this game. So I'm not really too worried about this, though there are a few things that I definitely have to watch out for, as I will break down when I break down his team right now. So I'm just going to go over his team now. So looking at Die's team, it consists of Hydreigon, Sylveon, Dubwool, Gastrodon, Appleton, Heliolisk, Sirfetch'd, Gardevoir, Wishiwashi, Hippowdon, and Scrafty. Now, I will expect him to consist of Hydreigon, Sylveon, Gastrodon, Heliolisk, Sirfetch'd, and Hippowdon. These are pretty set on these 6. Before I get into his team, can we just talk about how I have to go up against a Hippowdon in my first game that's going up on YouTube? I'm so sad about that. He also has Appleton, which is really fire Pokemon, and he also has the symbol of the Philadelphia Eagles last week in Gardevoir, so he definitely has all the threats there. And speaking of threats, he has a Sylveon. And easily, I think Sylveon is the most threatening thing on my opponent's team because Sylveon is so hard to offensively beat through my team. I do have ways to beat it, but not many. So I'm definitely going to need to break through Sylveon if I want to be able to win this game. Other problems consist of Hydreigon. Hydreigon's a problem because it gained Nasty Plot and Dragon Dance to this gen. So he can definitely run a bunch of different sets. He can't run a Roost or Defog because Hydreigon did lose Defog and Roost, so that's good at least. So reliable recovery isn't all there, and my offensive ways to deal with Hydreigon aren't terrible. It's just switching into it's actually really hard, and if I let him set up, it also could be a little bit of a problem. But everything else isn't really too scary. Notes is that Hippowdon lost Toxic, so it doesn't have that ability to wear down some of my walls like Mandibuzz, for example, so that's pretty cool. A lot of things just lost Toxic, so that's just nice in general. And then again, I already mentioned Hydreigon, and Sylveon also lost Teal Ball, which is going to be really important when I break down my team a little bit later. But that is basically the breakdown of his team. I really do like his team a lot, though I just think my matchup against it is pretty good, as I'm going to show you what I am going to be bringing to this matchup. It is going to be Conkeldurr, Gardevoir, Ferrothorn, Mandibuzz, Claydol, and Salazzle. So as I just mentioned, the first one that is going to be on the team this week is going to be Conkeldurr. Conkeldurr is rocking out with maxed attack, 168 speed, and 88 HP with an adamant nature, holding the Assault Vest with the ability Iron Fist, Ooze being Drain Punch, Mach Punch, Poison Jab, and Ice Punch. This thing is here basically to throw hands, because this thing comes in and it claims a kill almost every single time. As I mentioned like a minute ago, that Sylveon was the biggest problem. I do say that because Poison Jab is doing around half to it, and I do have the Assault Vest and I can take a Hyper Voice if it's a defensive Sylveon, which is what I'm expecting. I don't want to take the Hyper Voice, so I need to chip down the Sylveon significantly enough to the point where I can just Poison Jab it and knock it out. This speed is to invest in no speed, I think, Sirfetch'd. So Sylveon would need a little bit more than 4 or 8 speed EVs to catch up to me. Would need I think 40, and I don't think Die's going to do that if he's going to bring a defensive one. But again, as I mentioned, Conk just punches holes into everything on his team. Gardevoir and Hippowdon are the only two that can take a hit relatively safe. That's not named Sylveon, of course, but Gardevoir doesn't get recovery, and Hippowdon is pretty easy to deal with my defensive mons, so it's not really a big deal. And one last note is that Mach Punch is very important for this game because Heliolisk basically dies. Hydreigon takes, I think, like 70% unless it's holding a Chople Berry. It's really good at revenge killing almost everything on his team that's offensive. So I really felt like the priority was good this week. I did originally have a Flame Orb set too, but I felt like the extra damage wasn't needed, and I did need a relatively soft switch into Hydreigon as well because that was really scary. So that is going to be the Conk for this week. I'm really looking forward to using this mon. I had a really fun time building with it. But next up, we're going to move on to Gardevoir. Gardevoir is rocking out with max special attack, 164 speed, and 88 HP with a modest nature, holding the Choice Scarf with Trace, moves being a Psyshock, Moonblast, Energy Ball, and Hyper Voice. I like the Hyper Voice tech here because if I switch into a really low Sylveon, I can Trace Pixelate, and it is a budget Mega Gardevoir at that point. And that was really cool, but most of the time I'm going to be clicking Moonblast. His only Moonblast switch-in is Garbodor, and Garbodor is not going to switch into a Gardevoir, let's be real. So Scarf Moonblast just looks absolutely phenomenal in this match. Again, Sylveon is a little bit of a problem if it's at full, but if it's low, it's not as big of a deal. And I know Hippowdon, I think, can take 2 at full, especially if it's specially defensive. So I do also have to watch out for that. So you can see Hippowdon and Sylveon are just kind of hard to deal with offensively. But again, defensively, Hippowdon's not a problem whatsoever. Sylveon a little bit more, but I'll explain that a little bit later. But I threw Scarf on here because I could have ran Calm Mind and Sub and all that, but I felt like the Scarf would be necessary if he wanted to bring a nasty plot Hydreigon with Chople Berry. Then my answers to that would be very limited. So at least a Scarf Gardevoir deals with that. And just, again, Moonblast is very spammable against this team. His Fairy Resist is borderline non-existent, so yeah, that's basically the gist and why I just threw it on the team there. And that is Gardevoir. Our next one is going to be Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn is rocking out with a max HP, 2/8 but def, a sassy nature, 44 defense and 8 in attack, holding the leftovers, moves being Stealth Rock, Leech Seed, Power Whip, and Gyro Ball. He has one Defogger, and that is Surfetched. So, granted, Surfetched does beat Ferrothorn. If I can make Surfetched Defog on a switch out, it's really not that big of a threat. So that's kind of cool there. And Rockster is really good for his team in general because his recovery is pretty lacking. And everything that recovers basically gets beaten by Ferrothorn outside of Appleton. Though I don't really think Appleton can touch me back, so I can get rocks on that and just switch out until something else on my team. Leech Seed's pretty nice except for Appleton, and it just, standard stab is really cool coverage. Gyro Ball, not much resist that. That doesn't want to take a Power Whip as well. So it's just a nice standard Ferrothorn. It switches into Sylveon pretty decently, at least a defensive one. If he brings offensive Sylveon, which I'm not expecting, but if he does, that could be a little bit of a problem for Ferrothorn, but I don't really see that. Mystical Fire is a thing, that's why I say that. And I do just have to watch out for his fighting types in Scrafty and Surfetch with this thing. But that is simply Ferrothorn. It's, cool defensive mon. Oh yeah. Next up we have Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz is rocking out with the max HP, 180 defense with the Impish Nature, and 80 in speed. Moves being Brave Bird, U-Turn, Toxic, and Roost with the leftovers. I think I mentioned that. I'm so glad Mandibuzz got Toxic because I can at least use it if I need to. This is mainly here just to pivot into a few mons on his team, namely Double, Gastrodon, who else? Appleton, Lightly, and Surfetched, and Scrafty too. So his fighting types and then some of his high tier mons Mandibuzz can switch into relatively nicely, and then either Brave Bird, Toxic, or Roost, whatever, depending on the situation. This is also a nice switch into a physical Hydreigon. If he wants to go the Dragon Dance route, I can actually beat this relatively easy, or I could at least U-turn into a Mach Punch, and that would be really nice for me in the end. But it's really here just to be a nice defensive pivot and maybe toxic things that are getting out of hand. Brave Bird's pretty spammable against this team. Pivot, you get the gist. It's a standard Mandibuzz. I basically kind of have a fat kind of defensive core here. I know in OU people have been rocking with Mandibuzz. Pharaoh, I think, Toxapex a lot. And I do have 2/3 of that core right now, so it's going to be pretty hard for my opponent to break. And I have Overcoat just to not take sand damage. But so that is basically the Mandibuzz. Our fifth mon of the week is going to be the Claydol. Claydol is rocking out with Earth Power, Dazzling Gleam, Grass Knot, and Rapid Spin. Max HP, 120 speed, 60 defense, and 80 speed def with a Calm Nature with the Assault Vest. I have this investment for a certain reason that I cannot remember. The 60 defense was to live, I think, like a banded knockoff from a Scrafty. No, that can't be right. It was knockoff, I think, from something. I don't quite remember what that was for, but it's still live a hit guaranteed from something. I do have the Assault Vest here just to take hits better. I could probably either lure the Hydreigon in and then hit it with a D-Gleam for some fat damage. That would be really nice for my team overall. Claydol's here mainly just to keep hazards off the field because his only hazard stacker is Hippo and Gardevoir, and Claydol beats both of them pretty easily. So I'm pretty sure I'll have the hazard game. I'll have hazard control throughout the game, so that's going to be pretty cool. Assault Vest was just a nice little touch. This does get walled by Sylveon. It does give it a free wish, so that is a little bit scary. But again, I can switch into Ferrothorn or my Salazzle a little bit later, as I'll get into. That's my next mon, so that's basically just Claydol's job, is to keep hazards off the field and switch into a few mons. Heliolisk as well, that was another mon. And then finally we have Salazzle. Salazzle's rocking out with max special attack, 192 speed with the timid nature, and 64 in HP with the black sludge. Moves being Toxic, Sub, Flamethrower, and Sludge Bomb. Toxic Sub is going to be so good in this generation. It's going to be really good in this matchup particularly. Remember I said about now 10 minutes ago now that Sylveon lost Heal Bell? Well, he doesn't really have a Cleric on his team, so Toxic is really spammable, and getting up a sub against this team is going to be fairly easy. So just Toxicing things just to wear them down is going to be very useful, so Conk and Gardevoir can come in late game and just clean up. I didn't run sub Toxic Protect because I'm not the biggest scum in the world, and I did want the dual stab because I can basically 2-co or 3-co anything on his team with the dual stab coverage. That's not named Gastrodon, but Gastrodon I still have many other answers for, so it's not that big of a deal, and even getting a Toxic on that is basically a win in itself. And this is my main switch into Sylveon, despite Ferrothorn sitting right there, because I expect him to run Mystical Fire light years before he runs Psyshock. If he does run Psyshock, then, props to him, but I don't see it happening, so that's why I see Salazzle as a pretty good switch into Sylveon. And again, just sub-toxic thing, just wearing things down to the point where I can just clean up with other mons is just really useful. And then, again, this itself basically 2-co's every single offensive mon on his team, so I just have to find out what's Scarf, what's not Scarf, what's boosted in its speed, like Hydreigon or DD, for example. So once I find out all that information, I'll be pretty set to go. And that is basically the Salazzle set, and that is going to be the team. I'm actually really excited to use this team a lot, especially like Conk because I drafted that thing wanting to use it a lot, and I had fun building with it. That and Ferrothorn's cool. I always love Salazzle. Gardevoir's pretty neat, and the other two are just cool as well. So I hope I'm going to have fun, but I'm going to shut up now, and we're going to head over to the Pokemon Showdown, and we're going to watch the battle. Alright, we are here on Pokemon Showdown, and he did not bring the Gastrodon, but he did bring the Appleton, which is really cool because I do like that thing. Really hyped up for my first league game that isn't part of a tournament, so let's get into this. I am going to lead off with Gardevoir here because it looks really nice against my opponent's team, and if I can lead off with something that it beats, that will basically tell me what type of Sylveon investment he is running, as he does lead off with the Surfetch. Nothing that is a Scarf Surfetch will kill me, so I'm pretty confident I can just stay in a Moonblast, which I end up doing. As Sylveon comes out and it does 37%, this tells me he has probably max HP, but he doesn't have any spit def, if any. Maybe not even max HP, because it did a decent amount, as I do a little bit less this time around, so he's probably max HP, as he just throws up a wish. I'm fine with just clicking Moonblast continuously until I find out what else he's got on the set, as I just barely miss out on the kill. Apparently I'm the luckiest person ever. I get a third Spitac drop, as he actually sets up a Calm Mind. So 3 turns into the game, I basically found out his entire set. He has Wish, Calm Mind, Hyper Voice, and probably Mystical Fire. I don't see why you would run mono Hyper Voice with a team with Ferrothorn on it, so that's sort of what I'm assuming at this point. As here he throws up a Wish, as I can just get up a substitute basically, and because of this set, I can just switch in Salazzle basically freely on Sylveon throughout this entire game. So I'm going to keep that a note in my head. So now I can, because I'm behind a sub now, I can just fire up a Toxic. And this Toxic's pretty big because I did mention that Gardevoir was kind of my win-con late game, but Conkeldurr also looks really good just to break through this team as well, because with Powdon crippled on Toxic and with a little bit more chip, Conk can just beat everything on his team, so I'm definitely going to keep that in mind as well. I go out into Ferrothorn here. I could have gone out into Claydol, but I just didn't want that Sylveon coming in for free, because Claydol does give Sylveon a free switch in, so I decided to go with Ferrothorn. If he's going to get up rocks, I could at least get up my own. I do go for Leech Seed first, just in case he had the Fire Fang, but he goes out in the Appleton. That was a little bit of a misplay on my part, but, it happens. Now he sets up a Curse as I get up my rocks on my own, because if they're going to be on my side, at least I have them on their side. Curse Appleton is a little bit scary, because I did not really prep for that, to be honest. I just prepped for a special Appleton. As I go out to Claydol here, this might seem dumb, because I am going to Rapid Spin this next following turn, as you see now, because I can get rid of the rock on my side of the field, because I see that Salazzle is actually pretty important for this team. And I'm starting to realize that Claydol isn't too important, because Salazzle can switch into Sylveon, and then Ferrothorn can switch into Heliolisk, which is mainly only Claydol's real switch in at this point is Heliolisk. So I just thought, if I can have another way to do it, I don't really need Claydol too much. As you're going to see here, just keep setting up curses. I do speed up a bit here. And I'm just clicking Dazzling Gleam, just trying to get some chip on this thing in the end. And just in case he had the Roselli Berry, at least I would pop it there. I don't want to switch into my Salazzle or Gardevoir, risking him attacking on that turn. So that's why I just keep spamming until I die here. As I do just spam Dazzling Gleam, as he is going to get up to +6, which is pretty scary, not going to lie. As now he's just going to click Recover one final time. And this time I'm at 3%, and this Appleton is going to do about like 600% to my Claydol, and I'm going to die. So Claydol goes down. And going to Gardevoir, I'm pretty convinced I could just knock this thing out with Moonblast because I am Modest Nature. As you're going to see here, I didn't calc, and Appleton lives. So this was a really big turn. I also knocked down a special attack. This is a big turn because he's going to absolutely wreck me with Seed Bomb. And this is big because I mentioned earlier, Nasty Plot Hydreigon is actually looking very scary now because Mach Punch does like 75% max. So I would need 2 rounds of rocks instead of 1. And Surfetch is also looking like a big threat now because it could be Scarfed. As you're going to see here, I do knock out the Appleton, and he goes out into Surfetched, that's kind of screaming Scarf because I don't know why he would give me valuable chip on the Surfetched if I'm faster. So I go out to Mandibuzz just to see what he is, and he's definitely not Banded. So I'm really starting to think the Surfetch is Scarf, as I do predict him just to switch out, as I do click U-turn, which is really nice because now Salazzle can come in for absolutely free, and I can get another substitute up. So that's pretty nice for my team. But basically all I need is Hippowdon gone or low. I need a little bit more chip on Hydreigon and then Surfetch to take a hit as well. And then Conk just straight up wins the whole game. As you can see, he goes into Hippowdon on my Salazzle. I do have the Flamethrower. It'll do a solid chunk to this Hippo as well as the toxic damage that it already has. And this is a big turn as I get 46% off on it, and he sets up rocks. And that's really big for me because I can basically claim this kill while still having a substitute up as well. And this is huge for Conkeldurr because all I need at this point is to keep Sylveon low. I need Hydreigon not to set up for free because a Nasty Plot Hydreigon at 88% can just sweep my entire team at this point. And that is a very scary thought. So you're going to see he goes out to Surfetched. And at this point, you're going to see here that he is Scarf. So he is faster than my Salazzle. But because he is Scarf and I was behind that sub, I'm able to get a Sludge Bomb off, and basically now a Mach Punch kills the Surfetch. So this is no longer a problem either. This is just a huge series of events for me. As he goes out to Sylveon, predicting me to go out into Mandibuzz as I do. This isn't really a big deal. I do need to keep this thing a little bit low. I know this thing doesn't have Protect, or at least I'm assuming it doesn't, so I'm just going to fire off a Toxic as I do hit it luckily. And at this point, Sylveon's not really a big threat because I have the Ferrothorn in the back anyway. So I'm just going to spam Brave Bird until I die at this point because I can deal with Surfetched offensively now. And also, because I clicked Brave Bird, I can tell what type of Sylveon this is, which is really bulky on the defensive side. So I know this thing doesn't have much speed or special attack, if any. So now I can bring out my Salazzle again. This time, instead of clicking sub, I'm just going to go straight for the Sludge Bomb because A, if this happened, I was able to basically kill the Heliolisk, and B, a Hyper Voice could have killed behind a sub potentially, so I didn't want to risk that, as Sludge Bomb was just free there, and I'm assuming this isn't Scarf, knowing that Surfetched is, and as you see it isn't, so Heliolisk is just going to drop, and you're going to see here we go, the big threat is coming out, Hydreigon. I just need some damage on this thing, and I think I win the game, as I am faster than it. It's not Scarf, he's not running dual Scarf, as he just clicks Dark Pulse and knocks out my Salazzle. He gets a crit, but it doesn't really matter. And at this point, ladies and gentlemen, it is time. It is time for the Conk to come out, and the Conk is just going to start punching things. As I'm going to click Mach Punch, I'm going to claim my kill here. And I know I can beat Surfetch one-on-one offensively, it's just Sylveon still. I know I can level Hyper Voice, but I don't quite want to risk that if I have a Ferrothorn in the back, so I am going to switch out to Ferrothorn, as he does make the aggressive but smart double into Surfetched. Basically, he can just click Close Combat and nuke me to the next Sentry, as he is going to click Close Combat and nuke me. But this is quite fine because Sylveon at least took the extra round of rocks damage, so I'm pretty confident Poison Jab can actually kill. As I can just bring out Conk. I know it's one of the two, but I have Mach Punch for this thing, which is going to knock out the Surfetched. And then it just comes down to whether or not he's faster or not. If he's faster, I could probably live the hit because I'm Assault Vest. If I'm faster, then I probably just knock him out and win the game. I am faster, I knock out Sylveon, and your Northside Noiverns are going to win this game 1-0 against Diet Tight. GG to die. I am going to do something a little bit different for this generation. I'm going to put the end of the game stats on screen. I'm not going to mention it every video, but at least they're going to be up there for each battle so you guys can see who did work in this game. Conk put in the work. Slazzle, you see Appleton put in the work. I think Dye brought a really cool set in Curse. It definitely caught me off guard and put in some work against my team, as I keep saying. But I think, to reiterate from what I said earlier, the matchup for me was just really good, as I think it really showed in like Conk, Gardevoir. Slazzle actually had a better matchup than I thought, so it just all worked out for me in the end. I do think I did a pretty good job scouting out my opponent's team, so I will give myself some props for that part of it, but again, a lot of it just goes to the good matchup overall. And then finally, even though I did lose Gardevoir, I feel like in hindsight it was actually better to lose Gardevoir as opposed to Salazzle, because if I had lost Salazzle, I would have had only Ferrothorn for Sylveon, and he has a pretty easier time dealing with Ferrothorn or taking advantage of it over Salazzle. So at least having Salazzle, he couldn't really take advantage of that as much. So again, it turned out to work out in the end, but it could have been a lot worse if I had sacked the Salazzle instead of the Gardevoir, I think. So that's how it goes. One more time, GG to Dye. Make sure to check out his YouTube link in the description below. Please go check him out. We are going to move up to a 1-0 record and start off with a win for the PCP, so that's pretty cool. We're +1. Next week we take on Monster, coach of the Atlanta Star Raptors. To give you guys a little bit of a preview, he does have Cinderace, which is the fire starter. It currently still only has Blaze, but I do truly believe that thing is still a really good Mon. It's just really good fire typing, good speed tier, and all that good stuff. So it's going to be a hard battle, but that is going to be next week. I'm going to be prepping for that pretty soon, but it is 2:30 in the morning, so I'm not going to be doing that tonight. So I'm going to basically leave you guys off with that. Thank you guys for watching so much. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. If you like Pokemon Draft League content, consider subscribing to the channel. Words. I'm head out of here. Have a fantastic day, YouTube.